Here are the notes for section 3.5. Now in this section we're going to solve some proportions, and in the last section you were able to do that just by making equivalent fractions, but here that's not going to be so easy to do because you're going to have, well, like in this case, what do you multiply by 5 to get to 16? That's not an easy number to figure out. So I'm going to show you a different technique. It's called cross multiplication. Now you have to be real careful. This is not cross-canceling. That's completely different. That's what we use to simplify a fraction multiplication problem. But this is cross multiplication. We use that when we have a proportion, where we have a fraction equal to another fraction. And I'll show you how that works. What you do is you take the numerator of this fraction and times it to the denominator of that one. And then you do the same thing over here, numerator times denominator. A friend of mine that I used to teach math with used to call this shoelaces, because this pattern that he would draw reminded him of shoelaces on the top of a shoe. But remember, so you multiply across like this. So here, when we go this way, we get 8 times 16 equals, and here we got x times 5. Okay, now I am going to let you use a calculator on this section, because some of these problems, if you do them by hand, are just going to take forever. But I want you to show your steps, so I want to see this written out, and I want to see the next step written out too. Okay, so here's the calculator. Let me see, let's turn it on. So we got 8 times 16 on the left side, which is 128. So I get 128 equals 5x. Again, I want to see these steps if you're going to use a calculator. Okay, so hopefully you'll remember now to solve this. What we're going to do is divide both sides by 5. So again, 5 doesn't go into 128 nicely, so you can see having a calculator will be helpful. So 128 divided by 5, that's how we get our answer. That's what we got going on right there, equals 25.6. Okay, so cross multiply. Again, you may use a calculator, but you got to show some work. Okay, hope that wasn't so bad. So here's another one. Again, before you would just look, what times 6 is 15. Now some of you can maybe see that, and then you would do the same on top and multiply that to 5, but it's a little tricky here. So we're going to cross multiply again. So here we're going to multiply those together, and we get 5 times 15. So that's going to be on this side. We got an equals in the middle. And here we go, m times 6. So this is m times 6. Okay, calculator again. This is my work from the other problem. Let me make it go away. So 5 times 15 is 75 equals 6m. Okay, let me get that out of the way. And again, now to solve this, to undo multiplying by 6, I'm going to divide both sides by 6. And my answer is going to be 75 divided, oops, you can't see that. So 75 divided by 6 is 12.5. Okay, so calculator makes this way easier, but again, in order for me to justify letting you use a calculator, I want to see some steps. I want to see that you know how to do this and write it out. Because in a minute, you'll see these are going to get more complicated. So this one's slightly more complicated. I've got 4x in the numerator over here instead of just a variable by itself. I got a number in front of it. So same thing, we're going to cross multiply. So when I times those together, and I like to write parentheses around the numbers being multiplied together, and I'll show you why that's helpful in just a minute. Okay, so 4x times 25 will be on this side. We got our equal sign, and then this side over here is going to be 3 times 5. Okay, I don't need a calculator for this because I know 4 times 25 makes 100, so I have 100x equals 15. Okay, and so I'm going to divide both sides by 100, and I get x equals 15 over 100, which you could reduce. Let's see, if I divide each of those by 5, I get 3 over 20, Or you could write it as a decimal. If you're using a calculator, that's fine. You could just give me 0.15. Either one is totally fine. But again, I want to see some work written out here. I want to see your steps. Okay, there's the first three problems I've got for you. I hope that's okay. Cross multiply, numerator times denominator equals the other numerator times the denominator on the other side. So not so bad. Just make sure and show some steps. Okay, so here, this next one, this is going to illustrate why the parentheses are so important, because we get to use the distributive property, and I'll show you in a second. Okay, so here I'm going to times those two together, and I'm going to get 2 times 10. 2 times 10 equals, and then this side, when I times these guys together, I've got x minus 3 times 5. I'm going to write it this way. 5 times x minus 3. Okay, 2 times 10, that's just 20, no big deal. Now here, remember, we got a number out in front of parentheses, and we've got to use our distributive property to figure that out. I've got to swing the 5 through and multiply everything inside by it. So 5 times x is 5x, minus 5 times 3 is 15. Okay, so now I've got to solve this equation. This is going to take a few extra steps here, because I've got both multiplying and subtracting to deal with. So let's undo the subtracting. I'm going to add 15 to both sides. Okay, and then I have 35 equal to 5x. Remember, these make a 0. They cancel out. And then to get x by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by 5 to cancel those 5's out and make it 1x. So I get 35 divided by 5 is 7 equal to x. And that's it. Okay, there's not too many of those on the homework, and I know those take a few steps, but this is really good practice, because later on in high school and even in 8th grade, you're going to do problems like this a lot. So it's really good practice. Be careful when you multiply by 5, and make sure you multiply everything in those parentheses by 5. Okay, so here's another one. Again, some of you could do this, especially with a calculator, not using a proportion, but I'm going to have you set up a proportion just to practice it. So 3 sandwiches cost $12.75. So I've got 3 sandwiches over $12.75. You could certainly do it the other way, it doesn't matter. Equals, so here I have sandwiches on top, right? 3 sandwiches, 3 is on top. That means I need 8 on top over here. And I have no idea what they cost, so I'm going to call it x. Okay, and we're going to just go ahead and cross multiply again. 3 times x is going to be what's over here. Let me write it out like this. 3 times x equals, and then this side is going to be, and we'll use a calculator for that, 8 times $12.75, or 12.75. Let me write that a little better. So 3x, when I multiply those, that's what I get. And here, let's times these. I had 8 times $12.75 to get 102. Okay, 8 times 12.75 is 102. Okay? And so our last step is to divide by 3. And I am too lazy to do that in my head, so I'm going to do it like this. 102 divided by 3, and I get 34. So it looks like if 3 sandwiches cost $12.75, 8 sandwiches are going to cost, $34. Okay, so lots of proportions. We're going to cross multiply to solve them. Again, you may use a calculator on your assignment, but I do want to see your steps written out. Okay? Hopefully that's okay, and if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to send me an email. Thank you very much.